Please, welcoming you to the second session of our fall series on mass incarceration and criminal justice reform. We've been going on for several weeks this fall. I once again encourage you to check out a copy of this book, Race to Incarcerate, which we have several copies for you to borrow and read, which goes into some more detail on concerns that have arisen concerning our criminal justice system. This morning, we're very pleased to have with us Jahmal Cole. Jahmal has developed, through his own initiative, a wonderful program in the city of Chicago called My Block, My Hood, My City, which is inspired by his experience, I think, working with juveniles, perhaps in the jail and criminal justice system, but has developed into a program where he takes high school children to see other parts of the city. He'll tell us more about his experience with juveniles and criminal justice system and what he's doing. So, Jahmal, thank you very much for being with us today.
So, I couldn't sleep last night. Couldn't sleep, and it wasn't really because we don't have heat. We haven't had heat for a while, so my family, we heat the house with the oven, right? But I still couldn't sleep last night, and it really wasn't because I heard gunshots. Like, hearing gunshots in my community, that's regular. I tell myself they're firecrackers, that's how I go back to sleep. But I still couldn't sleep last night, and you know, it really wasn't because of the helicopters that fly over my community every night. Like, hearing helicopters is regular for me. I couldn't sleep because the helicopter's lights were shining through my window, and they had the whole block lit up at 2 in the morning. You could see every bullet casing on the ground in the middle of the morning. I couldn't sleep because of it. I live in a house with my aunt and her husband. Both of them were drug addicts. The last time I seen my aunt, she had a black t-shirt with a Batman logo on the chest, and half of her ear was missing. She had gotten into a fight with another drug addict outside, and she laid on the kitchen floor bleeding, and that's the last time I saw her. My house is run by my older cousins. Both of them are in gangs and they sell drugs, but nobody says that where I'm from because that's just regular stuff. They say, these are my friends and this is what I'm doing to survive. I love my older cousins because they tell me I'm smart. My teachers don't call me smart, but they tell me I'm smart because I know how to identify all the cars on the block. I'm the lookout. I know every car that's supposed to be on my block. I know there's a Chevy with the black tint, a baby blue Cadillac, a van with the curtains in it, the man with the motorcycle, a royal blue Acura, there's a Toyota Camry with a City College bumper sticker, there's a lady with a Cherokee, there's an all-black Charger with silver rims, and there's a brown Honda minivan. If any one of those cars aren't on my block, I tell my cousins, and they say I'm smart, I'm the lookout. I order my food every day through 3-inch bulletproof glass windows. Seeing 3-inch bulletproof glass windows in my community is regular stuff, right? German shepherds sniff us when we get on the train. Helicopters fly by. They check our receipts when we leave the store. There's red tape in front of our homes. Not yellow tape, red tape. This is regular stuff where I'm from. If society was a person, I would think society didn't like me, so I steal anyway. I am looking forward to going to school today because I'm a part of the after-school program. It's called My Block, My Hood, My City. It's ran by a guy named Jahmal Cole. He has his own fashion line. Jamal's always telling us he can't afford to take us to China, so he takes us to Chinatown. He can't afford to take us to India, so he takes us to Divine Avenue. He can't afford to take us to Poland, so he takes us to Jefferson Park. Jamal's always telling us we could travel the world without leaving Chicago. Just last week, Jahmal took us downtown, and he took us to a museum. But the coolest part about the trip downtown wasn't the museum. The coolest part was I'd never seen anybody wait for a taxi before. Jahmal let us all wave down a taxi, and I thought that was pretty cool. I was telling Jahmal recently that my father just got out of jail, and I don't like to go see him because he's on house arrest. And every time that I see him, he asks me to go run errands for him. The last time I was over there, I noticed that my mother had posted a picture of her boyfriend and her on Facebook. Rami, stop that right now. My brother posted a picture of her and us on Facebook. Rami, stop. It's recorded, you can hear it. My brother was posting a picture of her and us on Facebook right now, and my dad liked that photo. But when my mom posted a picture of me having straight A's on Facebook, my dad never liked that photo, and that bothered me. My name is Jahmal Cole. Hey, I thought it was important to start off right there Because the more we're separated as a city, the less empathy we have for each other, right? When most people hear about something negative happening in another part of Chicago, especially where people look a lot different from them, it might as well happen in another country. But visiting different communities and interacting with the residents, it can change all that. Right? I grew up in a household where both of my older brothers are in jail right now. They are doing 80 and 40 years right now, right? I write them, I always write them, and I write them by hand so they can know I still love them. I don't type the letters, I write them, just so they can know there's a connection there. And I say, how is it in there? How are you doing? And they say, on my block, in jails they have blocks, so it's A block, B block, C block. On my block, there's guys that have, it's okay, there's guys that have sold a little drugs. There might be people here for racketeering, maybe a murder, regular stuff. It's not regular for kids to have to go to sleep with the sound of gunshots and tell themselves they're firecrackers, right? It's not regular for German Shepherds to sniff us on 79th Street, 20 minutes away from here, right? It's not regular for there to be red tape in front of people's homes when they come home. There's blocks on 100th to 110th on State in Michigan. There's a whole 10 blocks that are just boarded up, homes boarded up, beautiful homes, all boarded up, X's, right? It's not regular for there to be 1,000 people committing all these crimes in Chicago, and there's 2.7 million people that live in this city, right? They say my program works with at-risk teenagers. I think the integrity of our city is at risk if we aren't supporting programs that are working with teenagers, right? So I was born on the Greyhound bus, right? And not literally, but this is the place where the most formative years of my childhood took place. Every time my mother and my father would get into an argument, my father would storm out, he'd leave the house, and he'd move to Fort Worth, Texas, right? And my mother, after a few months, she's like, hey, go stay with your dad down in Texas. So she sent me on the Greyhound bus. Now, as you can imagine, an 11-year-old taking the Greyhound bus by himself, that's not the safest thing. But those experiences really transformed me. Right? As we headed from the concrete of Chicago to the cornfields of greater Illinois, I remember being mesmerized by just the beauty and diversity of the country, really. Any fears I had of being in a foreign place was overcome by sheer curiosity. I became somewhat of an amateur anthropologist, right? And I still consider myself that today. And I tell people, Chicago is an anthropologist's dream. We have folks of all different colors, genders, religions, opinions, ethnicities, and occupations, right? Our city has some of the best architecture, food, and music in the world, right? And we have our fair share of problems, crime, poverty, failing schools. But what I've learned while talking with people is that too many people don't feel connected to Chicago. They don't feel connected to our gyms, they don't feel connected to our struggles. Instead, their world revolves around a small segment of the city. It could be a comfortable community like the Gold Coast, or it could be an under-resourced community like Roseland or Austin. I believe that people living in both those type of communities, that limited mindset is dangerous, and that's what's holding our city back from reaching its potential, right? So while volunteering at Cook County Jail and working with the young men there, I asked them, I said, hey, I noticed that a lot of them had never traveled outside their neighborhood. They hadn't. They said, where are you from? My block is 21st Street. My hood is the low end. I said, why don't you say my city? The museums are free on Tuesday night. They had never left their neighborhood. So their entire sense of self, their sense of efficacy, their sense of well-being was all shaped by the infrastructure or the socioeconomic status of their neighborhood, like North Lawndale or Inglewood, right? That reality poses significant limitations for some teenagers in Chicago, that they're ordering food every day through 3-inch bulletproof glass windows, right? And when you order the food through the 3-inch bulletproof glass, there's no microphone, so you have to yell, hey, I want the chip bag. I want the chip bag right there. That's how there's a line outside, right? And there's the mug shots of people on the bulletproof glass, and when you walk in, child support payment, murder with attempt to kill, arsonists. You just see images of people that you don't see images of doctors and lawyers every morning. This is what you see when the kids order their food through the 3-inch bulletproof glass windows. That reality poses significant limitations for some teenagers in Chicago. And conversely, it provides a lot of opportunities for others, right? So if we're going to be serious about all teenagers having a fair shot at leading this productive life, that inequality has to be corrected. So I started a program called My Block, My Hood, My City. Again, what I do is I take these teenagers from these under-resourced communities, and I take them on educational field trips. And I expose them to different cultures, different professions, different cuisines. Last month, we took a group of teenagers from North Lawndale on the west side, and we took them to Greektown. We went to the National Hellenic Museum. We visited the Athena Greek restaurant. We visited a marketing firm in Greektown, right? prior to that expiration, one of the explorers said the only Greek food he ever tasted was a gyro from Aldi's. That's the only Greek food he ever had. I thought that was funny. But I've also, I also take University of Chicago medical school students with me to Chatham, where a lot of their patient population comes from, because a lot of them have never traveled far south either. So I take them to the Whitney Young Library, and we talk to the branch manager. We go to the West Chesterfield Association, and we talk to the community leader there. We go to Captain Hard Times, and we have chicken and waffles. Now they're able to understand from a personal standpoint what the struggles and the joys of the community are, right? But if we're going to be serious about, Chicago, for Chicago to be a more interconnected place, we just need more people to visit community areas outside of their own, right? So, how can I say it? Like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he always talks about interrelated. He says, in a real sense, all life is interrelated. He says, all men, they're caught in this inescapable network of mutuality, and that's bound by a single garment of destiny. He says, what affects one person directly, that affects all of us indirectly. He says, I can't be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be, and you can't be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. That's the interrelated structure of reality. And so, in this interconnected Chicago that I see, all 77 community areas will contribute to this, I guess, the music of the city. So the residents of Humboldt Park will play the timpani. The residents of the Gold Coast, they'll play the cymbals, right? The residents of, let's say, Woodlawn, they'll play the xylophones. And Inglewood, we're gonna play the bass drums. We got the most bucket boys in the city, so it just makes sense. But all 77 communities, they're gonna contribute to the music of the city. And if one community area is struggling and they can't play their part, the entire piece is gonna suffer. And we're all gonna be concerned. So I encourage you all to step outside your comfort zone and expose yourself to different cultures, different professions, different cuisines, because you can travel the world without leaving Chicago. And I've written a book, it's called Exposure is Key. It's Solving Violence by Exposing Teenagers to Opportunities. And I have some of them in the back if you guys want to check it out. But it's most nonprofits write annual reports about their year of service. This is kind of like a living annual report. It's called Exposure is Key, Solving Violence by Exposing Teenagers to Opportunities. We spend so much money on healthcare, preventative healthcare, mammograms, colonoscopies to prevent cancer. Why can't millions of dollars be spent on exposure? Because if you expose kids to different opportunities and options, they won't have to pick up a gun because they can pick up some VR goggles from Google. They won't have to say, hey, I'm going to go sell these drugs. They say, you know what? I can do an internship at this marketing company. I ask kids all the time, what do you guys want to be? They say, I want to be a rapper. I want to be a basketball player. I take that same kid to Gatorade. They talk to them about consumer engagement. They never even knew that job existed before they went to consumer engagement. Now they want to do that, right? Exposure is key. It's simple. But just because something is simple don't mean it's easy. But it is simple. If you show somebody better, they do better. And that's just not a catchphrase. That's not a catchphrase. What we know intuitively is backed by a lot of youth development research that suggests that neighborhoods impact teenagers through exposure-based influences and forces. Right? Exposure to organizations, exposure to institutions, and the quality and safety of them, that impacts youth outcomes. And I didn't even say people. Right? I said exposure to institutions and organizations impact, because we all know the mentors of the drug dealers in the ghetto. We know that. But we're not even talking, we're just saying exposure to this place. Do you know what it's like for a teenager to walk down the street in the Gold Coast? They're going to think that they're in another country. Have you seen North Lawndale recently? Have you seen there's so many police officers there that it's almost offensive. It's the way the helicopters are flying is offensive. I'm not joking when I say we have to order food through 3-inch bulletproof. That's not even the half of it. What would happen if I put a 3-inch bulletproof glass window down here? It would be, you say, wow, that's what you do imagine if you saw that every day. You wouldn't trust anybody. There's one bank in my community and there's 15 currency exchanges. Does that make sense? Every time you cash your check at a currency exchange, they take 5, 6, 7%. The whole community is doing this. We spent $28 million in my community on lottery tickets last year. $28 million. I mean, our schools don't have air conditioning or computers. We spent $28 million on lottery tickets. Anyway, my name is Jahmal. My book is called Exposure is Key, Solving Violence by Exposing Teens to Opportunities. Definitely grab a copy. I'm happy to answer any questions about my program and what I do. Thank you guys for having me.
Well, thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to say that 55 years ago in London, one of my father's cousins was an Episcopal priest on the south side of London. 4 or 5 subway stops from Leicester Square.
Wow.
The members of that parish had never crossed the Thames. Once a year, they would rent a bus for a parish outing to go to a movie in Leicester Square. I mean, these were all white people in London living in a terrible slum where the police walked in twos. This is what it was like in London then.
Yeah.
That part of London now has gated communities
Yeah.
with houses going for millions and millions of pounds. But
Yeah.
there was still that total separation of poverty-stricken, drug-dealing Londoners. That was 55 years ago.
2 things I want to say about that is, I was never called American until I went to London. I always thought I was black until I went to London. It was interesting because in London, it's a boiling pot of people. It's different. In Chicago's kind of a segregated city. In London, it's like a boiling pot of people. And so when I went over there, it was the first time I was called American, and it was a fish out of water. It was one of the best experiences of my life because things are so much older there, and things are like we speak English, and it's just it was great. But you mentioned about I guess we're talking about segregation. So Chicago is one of the most segregated cities in the U.S., right? The distinction between the black, the white, and Hispanic community is very visible, and that's caused these diverging or these separate community areas. That racial division is important, not only because it signifies a lack of cultural integration in our city, but segregation, it creates social economic isolation and exclusion, in which minorities, specifically African Americans, they have higher vulnerability to things like poverty and crime. Right? According to the American Community Survey, 33% of black Chicagoans are living at or below the poverty rate, compared to 22% Hispanics and less than 12% whites. Now, with respect to violence, 2/3 of all homicides that have happened between 2010 and 2015 occurred in neighborhoods that were 2/3 or more black, compared to 12% Hispanics and less than 2% in white communities. So these racial lines, they parallel stark disparities in social economic indicators like poverty and crime. And once you look deeper, there's things are separated in educational attainment. There's data that shows. The lines separate kids that graduate high school and who go to college. So this is oppression is real. It's a structural part of our country and its history. It was created intentionally, and nowadays it's been cloaked up in trumped up laws and false media, and we have a hard time recognizing how that injustice is being sustained. How you doing? You ready? Sorry.
How are you funded?
Well, we are a 501c3 organization, so we get funding through Blue Cross Blue Shield, Southwest Airlines, the MacArthur Foundation. We Google. We've gotten a plethora of support from people throughout the city. We've been around for about 3 years, so we
30?
and then we sell books, we sell T-shirts. I do a lot of praying. I have to stay prayed up. It's hard. Can you imagine I work with 150 students a month, and I take them on field trips. I left my job to do this, and I have a wife, I have a daughter. I left my job to do this. Right? No one's giving me anything. I got tired of hearing gunshots. I got tired of hearing politicians tell me what they were going to do. I got tired of it. So I just jumped out and did it. And I struggled. We had the water was turned off in our house. You know how hard it is to watch your wife have to go next door and turn on the hose to get water for it's hard. It's hard. You know how hard it is to have your home being foreclosed and you have to go to the judge and they look at you and say, "Oh, you're from my block, my city?" You know how embarrassing that is? That's hard. But I got tired of hearing gunshots on my block. And I thought about Robert Kennedy. I thought about Martin Luther King. I thought about Malcolm X. And I said, if they can give their life to do it, then that's worth risking my home. I can lose my home. We've been burglarized too many times. I got tired. You know what it's like to walk into your home and everything is missing? It's almost like you can feel spirits in your home after that. I got tired of that. That happened to me twice. Everything was gone. It took 4 hours for the police to come to my house to tell me I was robbed. We can do fingerprints if you want. I got tired of that. I said I had to do something about it. Happy to answer any more questions. How you doing?
I'm so happy to hear about this program that you have, and I come to Chicago from right outside D.C., where I taught in Prince George's County, which is the same kind of system there. And as you say, I would be taking kids places that they had never done these things or gone these places. You know, they may have never gone to visit the monuments in DC. They had never gone to a restaurant other than McDonald's. You know, they may have never ridden. You know, as you say, enabling them to have all those experiences and supporting them in those efforts, which normally somebody might say, go ahead and do it, but then nobody takes them, helps them, leads them through, shows them the process. And
Right.
so to have a program where this is being done on a larger scale is.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because I didn't even know.
Is the clue.
Exactly. I didn't know that it was even a program at the beginning. I was just a volunteer at Cook County Jail. I was volunteering, and when the kids would get out of jail, I'd bring them to Wicker Park to have pizza. And I'd hear the myths that they had, like, oh, there's no black people in Wicker Park. Oh, there's no business owners that are black. And then they'd see a black business owner and blow, they'd be like, wow, like, I can have a business in Wicker Park? Yes. Like, the misconceptions and myths that are spread around throughout the city, it's unbelievable. But yeah, exposure is key. We actually took teenagers, thanks to Southwest Airlines, they gave us 25 tickets to take teenagers to DC. It was the first time getting on the plane. Oh, it was beautiful. They were screaming. Ah! They had to get the boarding pass, but it was a meaningful deposit into their lives. And we loved DC.
Yeah, when the kids they're in your program, it's a relatively new program, so it's not like you have years and years of like kind of data that you've been able to follow. But are you seeing some outcomes at the end of it where kids are either leaving their neighborhood or having a broader understanding, maybe making choices that are different than what they might have made it? It's obviously pretty subjective information, because who knows what one life, you go down one path, right? But what kind of outcomes are you seeing?
That's a great question, and I'm going to answer it as honest as possible. When I first started, I talked to Northwestern University and University of Chicago about creating a research strategy, and we wanted to measure kids with lower than 80% attendance rates. We were like, will the power of travel be so transformative that it'll boost attendance rates? Will it lower in-school suspension rates? Will it boost graduation rates? I think all that was wrong. Because what we're doing really here is measuring hope. Like, will the power of exposure defibrillate a kid back to hoping for more? And that's going to take a long time to do. Because, like, my ultimate goal, when I look back in 20 years of what I've been doing, I can't honestly say that my program helped a teenager graduate high school. I think I had some impact on them. What I want to know is if that kid graduates from college, does he come back to his community and pick another kid up by his bootstraps? Like, that's what I want to see. Like, will this kid say, hey, Jahmal did it for me, I want to come back and show somebody else something else is possible? And that's going to take me at least 10 years to have, like, really measure. But for the sake of grants, yeah, there's a baseline of things that we measure. We give surveys, pre and post surveys. They take a survey at the beginning of the year, and we say, hey, what do you want to be? And then they take 12 explorations a year. At the beginning, they say, I want to be a rapper or a basketball player, again. But at the end of the year, they might say, I want to be an electronic trader. I want to be a Microsoft engineer. I want to be a chiropractor. These things, they weren't options prior to. So that's how we're able to see if we're expanding their worldview. And we're also,
Are you able to give them, when they say, I want to be this, instead of these really kind of unattainable goals, I want to be famous, something, to I'm actually going to have a career path. Can you help them take those steps to that career path? Is that part of what your group is doing?
Yes, we connect them with internships, exactly. So when we go, we do want tickets to the Bulls game, but how awesome would it be if the Bulls could show us how they do their marketing or how they do their sports nutrition? Because these are career fields in that space. So yes, we do connect our explorers to internships throughout the summer so they can follow this career path.
So I hate to monopolize with all these questions, just to follow up on a follow-up.
No, it's okay.
One of the things that we're hoping for is guidance from you as to what we could do to help. And I'm wondering if it would be worth your effort to say to the crowd here, if you know of those internships, if you know of some path where they would take some kids to do that, feel free to ask.
Yeah, if you guys know of corporations that would allow us that want to host an exploration, like we have a lot of teenagers that need exposure. If you know of corporations, it could be a hospital, it could be a trading firm, it could be an IT firm, it could be a magazine, it could be any kind. If you can expose teenagers to these opportunities, then things are possible for them. That's the best thing, that's better than money. If you can expose these teenagers to different career fields, let's talk. I got a lot of cards in my pocket. Rami's in the back too. We can take out a lot of, he's on his phone as always, but we're looking to talk to you guys. How you doing? Yes.
I apologize. I walked in like into this house. Did you say you were from North London?
No, actually I'm from North Chicago. I'm from North Chicago, yeah. My wife and I moved to Chatham on the south side in 2007. Yeah, that's where I've been living since.
And so, can you just tell us where the kids you serve are? Are they all over the city?
Oh, yes, sorry. So I work with kids, 30 kids in North Lawndale, 30 kids in Inglewood, 30 kids in South Shore. I work with Syrian refugees in Edgewater at Senn High School. And yeah, that's where our teenagers live.
So a little more on the structure of the program. You say, number one, 30 kids, that's every year, every month. Secondly, I think you said that you take individual kids on a dozen explorations. That's the program. And the third question is, what kind of cooperation or involvement do you have from their schools?
Okay, so it's an after-school program so I pick the kids up in a cohort of 15 because I have a 15-passenger van. So I pick them up at 3 o'clock and I take them, let's say, to Google and we do an exploration. And then we eat downtown at the Michael Jordan restaurant, right? And then I'll take them back to their homes. And you have to drop the kids back off. I don't take them to school, I take them to their houses. And some of their blocks are so bad, you gotta drop them off and they run, like I'm talking sprint into their homes. Because come 9:30 at night, we have to walk the young ladies into their homes. The guys, I make them walk. Man, you gotta walk inside your home yourself, right? But some of their blocks are so bad, they take off sprinting. Like I'm a full sprint. So the structure of the program is it's a 4-year program. If you start as a freshman, you take 12 explorations a year. By the time you're a senior, you've been exposed to 48 different careers, 48 different cultures, 48 different professions, and you have more options to choose from. So it's an after-school program. The structure is we do about 7 or 8 explorations a month in groups of 15, and we will take them to Pandora on Monday. I might take another group of kids to Facebook on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I'll take another group of kids to a healthcare marketing company, and that's the cadence that we do. And I have a small staff. We have 3 people, and we have a lot of volunteers throughout Chicago.
If just some of the clarification, would it be doable, because you do have the transportation, that let's say if we wanted to do, say, once every other week, some sort of a mentoring program where you would bring the kids here, and then maybe we might feed them, okay? And let's say that happened between 6 and 8 o'clock at night. Would that be something that we could do?
I think that'd be awesome. I think I can connect you and we can have a meeting with you and our chief operating officer. We can talk about it. That exposure would be valuable. I mean, that'd be.
Well, there's been a little rumble. We used to have a very strong tutoring program here.
Okay.
And our biggest issue has been able to find someone for transportation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll have to talk about it.
Okay, that sounds amazing. Any help we can give you awesome.
How were the 30 kids selected?
So initially, that's a great question. She said, how are the kids selected? So initially, we wanted to approach schools that had lower than 80% attendance, and we wanted to see if we could, through the power of travel, would we boost attendance rates. The problem was, as we approached, let's say, Robeson High School, the entire school had 2,500 kids. The entire school had a capacity for 2,500 seats. The enrollment was 130, and of those 130, only 58% attended school every day. So our benchmark was 80%, but it was way. I mean, if you all had a 58% attendance in school, you could see you're struggling already with grades. You're struggling with a lot of things. So So really we go to the principals and we say, who's the most disconnected youth here and who can we work with? And they identify the most disconnected. And to your question about the teachers and what involvement they have, the teachers are so busy running their programming, they're so busy dealing with the curriculum and dealing with social emotional issues, you can't depend on them to help you out with your program. Because come 3 o'clock, those kids are gone. Even if it's I don't care how cool your program is. So what I do is we show up at lunchtime and we like, hey, you're gonna be there at 3 o'clock, right? You're gonna be there at 3 o'clock, right? We have to show up at lunchtime to make sure they're gonna take advantage. It doesn't matter where. Well, one thing that does help though is if you take them out to eat. I guess that helps with everybody. They can provide food, and they can choose where they're gonna go, and they can map it out. Like we're gonna go to this restaurant in Little India. We're gonna go to Khan's BBQ. Where is it at? And by the time I get back at 3 o'clock, they have it mapped out already. Let's go here, let's eat this, and they love it. So that's kind of one of the ways I get them engaged. How you doing?
Just thinking about our engagement opportunities. Can people come along with you on exploration? I know you have a 15-passenger van, but maybe they can drive themselves.
Yeah, no, they can. We have chaperones that do come. Now, of course, people have to do background checks to be around teenagers. There's all kinds of liability issues, but we've been blessed so much by volunteers throughout the city that come and serve as mentors. And yeah, we try to bring one person, one volunteer on every exploration with the teenagers. Rami, you have a question? Oh, okay, sorry. Rami, sorry. This guy, Rami, he's interning with us for 6 months. He's from Albania, and he's going to be working with us for the next 6 months. He's a great person. He's very spiritual, and I've learned a lot from this guy in 2 weeks. Really have. How you doing, man?
Do your kids get much pushback from other kids in the community who are going a different way? Do they like pull them aside?
You know, they've been great recruiters for more kids. A lot of kids want to be in our program. We just don't have the capacity to serve more.
What I hear is recruitment. They're being recruited young to go into things. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, they get them in middle school. So our program, we started 14 to 18. We need to be getting there younger because the mentors are getting there in middle school. And so what we've seen is that like 2 of our explorers got shot last year. One got shot in the eye on a drive-by, and one of our explorers got shot in the knee for a pair of shoes. They both lived. But again, they came in a program at about 14, 15, and they'd already been exposed so much to just that lifestyle that it takes a long time. I mean, it takes like a year for them to actually like get on track. And there's strong leadership in the schools that does it. The leadership, the principals, the strong leadership. Miss Sharp in North Lawndale, she can change a kid's trajectory because she's not going to take no mess, and she's going to. They don't care about what you know until they know you care, and she really cares. I've seen that make a difference.
I just wanted to kind of push back on an issue that I found through the years. I used to be a high school teacher in the inner city in Atlanta, and then now at age 62, well, one, I couldn't get into substitute teaching here, and so I guess I'm looking at the systemic racism, systemic inequalities. I'm so frustrated. Back then I studied philosophy of education and John Dewey, and I'm still like an anthropologist, you say, looking at the system and just so frustrated. One issue I've been involved with is community, trying to advocate for the Community Police Accountability Council. This is the National Alliance Against Racist Political Repression. And we're protesting the police violence and these kind of systemic things that aren't covered in the media. I'm so frustrated, Rahm Emanuel being a tyrant, but he, and I get frustrated when he says, oh, we'll just have mentoring. That'll solve the problem. And I guess, what are your ideas on systemic change, mass incarceration?
Yeah, my aunt was killed by a Chicago police officer the morning after Christmas last year, by accident, by the way. The morning after Christmas, Betty Jones, that was my aunt, mother of 5.
Yeah.
Keisha, Tasha, Tanya, Run, Toya, those are that's my family. She opened the door for a cop and was shot down. They say it was an accident, but it seems like a trend of lovelessness that's spreading throughout our police force.
Yes.
But the thing is, like, having a police badge gives you a platform that's probably going to amplify who you really are, right? So if you're a good person, having that police badge is going to amplify. It gives you a platform that's going to amplify, like, you being wicked, and and that's what I've seen. So as far as being the mayor is a tough job because it requires that you necessarily displease a lot of people, and hopefully you're trying to bring the whole city together as a whole, but. I've talked to Rahm Emanuel a few times, actually. I've talked to him personally. And the thing is that he's a good person. Like, he's a good person. He recognizes stuff is going on. I just think that it's hard for me to judge what's on his desk because I don't have all the information. I think that the way I look, I try to lead with love and empathy towards the suffering of other people. And if you give people love, you usually get it back. And that's just how I am. But when it comes to this big game of politics, it seems like this game of politics has been played since like the classical ages of like when the Roman Empire ruled over northern Egypt, and it just seems like that Eastern European style network of politics is very influential in our country. So if you look at the Chicago Teachers Union, the Chicago Housing Authority, the Fraternal Order of Police, if we talk about how powerful they are, then people would probably be mad at the mayor for being so weak, because the mayor and his appointees are temporary. The real power is with the groups that exist before and after each mayor. But in order for our city to function, those groups have to function regardless of who the mayor is. So that's how I feel about it.
What's your education level and how did you get to where you are with your education that you got?
My education, I have a master's degree in internet marketing. I have a Microsoft engineering certification for Microtrain. I have a bachelor's degree in communications. I went to Wayne State, Nebraska. I went to an alternative high school in North Chicago. My guidance counselor told me to go to the Army because I didn't have the grades to go to college. I looked to my left, there was a book on our desk that said All American Colleges. I opened it up, ripped the page out of it, put it in my pocket. She came back to the office from a phone call, blah, 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 blah. I ran downstairs, took the paper out of my pocket. It said Wayne State College, Nebraska. And I was so mad. I was like, oh, are there Indians and buffaloes in Nebraska? I'm like, I'm scared now. But I called them, seriously, I called them up. 402-375-7000. And I said, hey, and this is all in the book that I wrote. I mean, do you guys have a history program? Yes. Do you guys have a basketball team? Yes. They accepted me. They accepted me to the college. Do you know that prior to this, I only applied to one college, and that was Howard University in D.C. And that was because Sean Puffy Combs, a famous musician, he went there. That's all I knew of college. And so I applied there, never heard anything back. So 2 weeks before graduation, I got accepted to Wayne State, and I was so proud. I took the paper to North Chicago, showed all my friends. I got my jaw broke. They said, "Hey, you leaving Chicago? We're not going nowhere. You're crazy. You leaving Chicago?" Do you know? My mother told me I was trying to be white. She said, "You trying to go to college? What are you trying to be white? What are you trying to? This is my mom. Why are you being haughty? You think you're better than us?" She took my car away from me. Right? When you turn 17, you get a $500 credit card in the mail. My father stole a U-Haul truck, literally stole a U-Haul truck. We maxed this card out driving to Nebraska. Can you imagine driving to Nebraska with nothing in the back? I had a t-shirt. I did. We had nothing in the back of the U-Haul truck. Now, who steals a U-Haul truck? He did this. We maxed the credit card out driving to Nebraska. I was in debt before I even started college, right? And this is hilarious, but I was. And 15 minutes before he got to the college campus, my father told me, he said, "Hey man, you already done more than anybody in this family could ever. You're going to college, for God's sakes. You're doing more." He said, "I wanted to tell you something." He said, "I got the letter from Howard University in the mail about 6 months ago, and they didn't accept you." And I might tear up thinking about it because he said, "I didn't tell you because I knew if I'd told you, you wouldn't have tried. You'd have been like your brothers." And I know I'm gonna cry because it's probably the best thing anybody's ever done for me in my life. And he says that I didn't show you because I knew you gave up. And I would have. And I didn't. And I got to Nebraska. I got out there. And I was exposed to new stuff. I got to travel the country. Right? I got to go to England. I got to go to Hawaii. And I'm from North Chicago. And those experiences made all the difference. And I saw the ripple effect it had on my family. And my cousins started going to college then. And everybody started traveling after that. So that's how I actually was able to leave Chicago.
Thank you very much for talking to us. I admire you and am inspired by the work you do. My question is, what do you attribute your success to?
I attribute it to my mother was my father wanted me to be like a civil rights activist, but he never was really around. And so my mother would make me, she was a Jehovah's Witness, right? So she took me to church 3 times a week, and I hated it. But she made me speak publicly and memorize Bible scriptures to her and use my hand gestures. And 3 times a week I was speaking publicly, and 3 times a week my mom was taking me to church. And when the church would have conventions, they'd take us on little vacations to like Janesville, Illinois. And I think it was God, obviously, because that's all, I had a conscience. Like a lot of my friends didn't have I knew right from wrong. I'd feel bad if I was like, no, this isn't right. And it was all because my mom would just keep me in church a lot. And that made the biggest difference in my life.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes.
You were mentioning all the exposure and experience, because like you said, you had the good fortune to have your mother put you in certain situations where you received training, shall we say. Now, in your exposure of the kids to different things, do you also have in place the ability to help them pursue these? In other words, not just exposing, but also this is what you need to do, or this is what you have to do in order to achieve these things.
That's a great question. We're building that out now because we don't have all that in place right now.
Like,
But I'm,
as an example, you know, like filling out applications, doing interviews, talking on the telephone, taking notes, you know, all those sorts of things which go along with the experience.
You're 100% right. And we need to build out our program better. Because right now we're really good at taking them on educational field trips, but you're right. It needs soft skills for an interview. We need to know timeliness. There's a lot of things that go into getting it. There's certain cultural prerequisites that are necessary to live in the Gold Coast. Like a lot of my teammates have never been on an elevator. So how can they have an internship downtown?
Right.
So like there's all types of
They
things.
feel uncomfortable.
They
about it.
very
So you have
uncomfortable.
to get them in the situation so they do feel comfortable.
Yep.
Like I told my kids, I said, I don't care where you choose to live, but I want you to feel comfortable to be able to live wherever you want to.
You have questions, sir?
Well, one of the things I'd like to offer up to you is something on interviewing skills, as well as showing young men how to dress to go to them. And we'll have a conversation about how we might be able to work out something with Banana Republic
That'd be awesome.
to help out with that.
Okay.
And young women how to dress.
Well, if you work with girls. Right?
Yes, sir.
And girls.
Oh, okay.
Of
course I didn't know that.
Do you coordinate or collaborate with other organizations that work with these same at-risk youth? Is there a way to take your kids and give them a different experience with another group that's doing something?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we can't do it all, and we don't do social emotional learning. And we Chicago is great because there's so many great people doing great stuff. So yeah, we do give assist to other organizations, and they do the same thing with us as well.
So your kids can get another program in addition to yours to enrich their experience?
They can, ma'am. Yes. Yeah.
That, just to follow up, to me the biggest problem with programs like yours that are so fabulous is that the resources to scale them don't exist.
Yeah.
So I would ask you, what would make it possible for you to triple the number of kids that you would work with? For example, is it money, is it staff, is it political connections? What are the big needs?
Yeah, it's all of those. It's definitely going to take a lot more money, and that's why I barely sleep. I'm always trying to get in touch with bigger corporations. And you know, sometimes senators have influence over which type of grants are going to come in. So if I got to volunteer for 6 months, I do it. Whatever I got to do to continue to, you know, to fund my program, I'll do. And then access to corporations is very helpful because corporations aren't as stringent as grants. They say, hey, we have this pool of resources to give out. Mazda gave us $30,000, or Blue Cross Blue Shield will give us $75,000. You know, and so those things are very helpful. You know,
well, I think people may want to buy your books and release some time.
Okay.
All right. It's,
Thank you.
What is it, 10 up?
Yep.
Maybe one more question or next?
We were talking about getting the employment council going, and I had this idea of once a week we could teach like LinkedIn and photographs and
LinkedIn
good
is
idea.
everything for us. That's everything for us. I love LinkedIn.
Right.
Crack the code. I got